Donald Trump gives up. He is now facing impeachment after the midterm. Make no mistake, because the Republicans, they are now turning on him. Take a listen.
Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way, I believe, not to have a shutdown.
Wow. Really? We are working on a bipartisan way. There will be hopefully no shutdown. Like, when was Donald Trump last time said something like this? He's always like, oh, we're going to shut down. It's not going to happen. I'm going to take care of this and this. But today, the tone is totally different, guys.
When has Donald Trump ever sounded like that at the threat of a shutdown? Senate Democrats were ready to shut down the government over the funding of Donald Trump's invasion forces. And Donald Trump caved. Donald Trump caved to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer announced that the Senate Democrats would shut down the government over this. And Donald Trump said, oh, let's talk. How can we avoid this? The Republican Senate leader caved right along with Donald Trump.
This is such an embarrassment for Trump administration, even though outwardly you not see them talking much. Of course, sometimes you see them, but for the most part, not just his administration, but people who are defending his policies, they're finding it impossible to do so anymore, because they are being called out, they're getting exposed, and they are forced sometimes, they force themselves to lie to the public, because otherwise they're going to lose their job. They cannot any longer keep their boss, Donald Trump, happy at the same time keep the public happy. It is over. They have to choose a party, and people have decided where they are going with this, and these representatives, people who are still defending Donald Trump in the Senate hearing, the Congress hearing, they're also picking a side.
In retreat. And so Democrats in the Senate will allow other funding bills to go forward, but not the funding for Donald Trump's invasion forces in Minneapolis who murdered Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And we are all witnesses now. We have all seen the video. We're all witnesses to that video that showed what happened to those people.
You know, this is the most interesting part of all of these things that are happening right now in the States, and that is video recording and getting them onto the social media for people to see it. In the past, they could lie. They could redact, which they did, obviously, with the Epstein files. They could do a lot of things. But today, they cannot, because we have raw footages coming right on our phone to see exactly what has happened. I mean, Renee Good's killing, her murder, was recorded. Also, Alex Preddy's murder was recorded. So there is absolutely no way they can change the narrative or the story. It is over.
The hands of those federal agents, and we can all see as witnesses that it was murder. When the United States government retreats, it never uses the word retreat. In Vietnam, the generals and the Republican president called it de-escalation. That's the word that Donald Trump used this week about Minneapolis. De-escalate. Donald Trump learned that word during the end of the Vietnam War. Donald Trump's so-called border czar used the language of the American Vietnam retreat today when he talked about what the generals in Vietnam used to call the drawdown.
We are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing smarter. We can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements. The agreements have alone is going to cause a significant drawdown. So you can see a drawdown. My main focus now is drawdown.
Sounds like
that is not something you will ever hear from Tom Homan. Drawdown, drawback. We're just, slowly de-escalating the situation. You never hear this from him. What you hear from him, yes, this is the right thing to do. We're trying to save lives. That's why we are deporting people. Yes, we are doing the right thing, and we are going to continue to do so. And then he will blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for their mishandling of this situation. But now, drawback. Yeah, we have to take a step back. But in reality, as Lawrence is saying, they are retreating.
American general in Vietnam. The American government never uses the word retreat, never uses the word surrender, except to deny that they're doing it when they are doing it. That is how de-escalate entered our military language in Vietnam. That is how drawdown entered our military language in Vietnam, when we were on our way to mounting a full retreat and a total surrender. In the first war the United States of America lost outright and never admitted losing, the anti-war protesters won. The protesters against the war in Vietnam won, and they forced America to leave Vietnam.
I mean, the Epstein file was a complete failure for Donald Trump. he got called out for his lies when he said, I'm going to be releasing the files, and then he will backtrack on that. This is a Democrat hoax. That's it. And then you also have his foreign policy, Venezuelan policy. I mean, 71% American in a recent poll, they believe that Donald Trump and the country is out of control. America is out of control. And now you have this killing by ICE agents. I mean, everything that this lunatic, this guy is doing, Donald Trump, is becoming a big failure, and it is backfiring. The unfortunate thing is we still have to wait for 286 days plus or less before we have the next election, midterm election, to decide Donald Trump's fate to an extent. But right now we just have to wait and hope that more innocent civilians' life will not be lost. That is the sad part of it. Subscribe for more videos. See you in the next one.